You want to get as many conversations out as possible. And then it's going to get to a point where you have like hundreds of conversations.
When you become really good at like reading trends like in the market and like seeing what people are doing, you tend to get more attention a lot.
Yeah.
And they want to win. People want to win. So all right, let's jump into the fun stuff. So what do we do now, right? What do we do when we started a conversation? Okay. You've prospected to get people added. You've sent that initial message out, right? And now it's like, okay, now what? Now what do I do? How do I talk to these people? How do I actually talk to these people, right? And let me share my screen really quick. This is something that we've been talking about pretty heavily over the last couple of weeks, Nick and I and our team, is how can we help in certain areas, right? And one of the big things is shifting our mindset from messaging to setting, because there's a difference between the two. Okay, so really what we want to jump into is what is the difference between those two, and basically how do we utilize this? Okay, so messaging versus setting, right? So messaging for me, right, and this might make sense to you a little bit too, but in messaging, there's no clear plan. We're just chatting. It's very, laid back and open. There's lack of fluidity and direction in our conversations, right? Because we're just kind of talking, like we're just, you know what I mean? When we want to get really efficient and effective, we have to shift our mindset from like talking to people to like, what is the objective of why am I talking to this person? Yes, you want to build rapport, relationship and stuff. You could do that by having a clear objective in mind, right? So setting shifts our mindset to, I'm not just messaging this person to talk to them and stuff. Like the goal is to qualify them and book them into a call, right? So we have a clear objective in mind of when we go to set, right? It's also process oriented. Okay, I know that these are the things I want to hit in this conversation, right? And these are the answers I want to get out of them so that I can qualify them, right? These processes guide our conversations. Okay, so how do we do this? Okay, so when I started, very much the same, like just talk to people, like I lost a lot of direction, like conversation would go on for like 20 minutes and I still didn't have any answers of what I actually wanted to ask them. Like I'm sure a lot of you could probably attest to being in a conversation where you're just like, well, that conversation was weird, like I didn't get anything out of it, right? What I really want to do is kind of take you through my process that I've started to use step by step in messaging to qualify people, one, and get them onto calls, okay? So this talk will probably be like 20 to 30 minutes, but you could literally do this in like 7 or 8 messages. Okay. So
before you jump in, Tyler, I just want you to share, we were talking about this, but from that one post you did into messaging in this way, how many calls did you book and how many did you close?
The one we were talking about?
Yeah.
I booked, so I got 22 messages out of it. Got 15 conversations started from it and booked 12 DCs from it. And 9 of those are on sales calls now.
9 sales calls. Okay. Did you close any of them?
2.
Okay. This is like the power of it. If you guys follow this to a T, like you should be seeing similar results.
Yep. So tailor this to yourself a little bit, and how, like when I talk about engagement and like responding to them, like I use the word bro sometimes and stuff, like maybe that's not what you say. I don't know. But basis and foundation of what this is very important. Okay. So this should give you a lot of clarity on how to guide your conversations. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is determine the niche, right? And we know mainly what the niche is. And I'm not talking about like your landscaper. One, you want them to confirm what they do. It's an easy conversation starter, right? But even get more specific in this. So if you're working with roofers or anybody, let's say you're working with anybody, right, in contractor space, and actually you could do this real estate, right? Roofing, outdoor living, HVAC. Like, do you work more residential or commercial? Like, it's a very easy question, right? And they're gonna be like, oh, we're more residential. That's a qualifying question for you, unless you work with commercial contractors, right? So that's a qualifying question for you. This alone can change the conversation. If your agency's built up and you have knowledge in Google Ads and Facebook ads, this can guide the entire conversation of where it goes, right? Based on this one question. Okay. So the first thing is we want to specify or confirm the industry that they work in, right? And even more specific about who they work with, residents or, business owners, commercial, right? So I attached, this is an actual conversation down below, and I attached one of these to every single slide so you can kind of see the process of where I went with a lot of this. Okay. So first message came out, right? He kind of spilled it out right away. I didn't even ask him to, but that's okay. I asked him a little bit about, why he thinks it's been slow, just to get him to get a little more vulnerable with me. And then we went on to the next part is, what do they do? Okay, so now I know he does residential. I want to know what they do. What kind of jobs that they do? Is this in outdoor living? Are they hardscapers or softscapers? In roofing, are they doing metal roofs or shingles? In real estate, are they focused on buyers or sellers, right? Are they doing insurance roofs or retail roofs, right? HVAC, are they doing more repairs or replacements, right? These are all really important questions to ask, right? Because this is going to guide your conversation into qualifying them even more, right? If I talk to a landscaper and he's like, I only do lawn maintenance, he's not a qualified client for me, right? I send him to my group. I pretty much go, that's awesome, man. Here's my group. Like, right. So you want to know job size. So you can see down below, how long have you been doing it? What kind of jobs are you doing mostly, right? He gave me a long story, but really picking out of that is just started to get into the hardscape stuff. So now I know he's doing hardscapes, right? This is important information. Okay. You can see how I engage with him after every single conversation too. Everything he does, I engage with it. I acknowledge it and I engage with it. Okay. And then I ask my next question. So step 3. Okay. Where are they at right now in their business? This is where we're going to start building that gap, right? And if we could do this in our messaging instead of in our sales, way more powerful, right? If you could start to build a gap between where they're at and where they want to be, this is how you start this. Okay. So it's current status, right? Where are they at right now in their business? How many jobs are they currently doing? And what are the price points on those jobs if you're not familiar with it? So I want to know how many of the jobs that you want to be pushing more or you want to get more of, how many of those are you actually doing right now? And how much are you charging for those? Right. So this guy's like, there's some months I don't even do any. Like I did 2 last year. Give me some reason, right? I'm terrible at advertising. He's kind of just walking into it here, but and then I engage again. Man, it's awesome. Advertising is supposed to be your strong suit. That's building awesome stuff, right? After I figure out where they're at, how many jobs they're currently doing, obviously I'm taking very detailed notes when I'm doing this. Okay. Now I have in my head, okay, Nick's at 2 jobs a month at 30K, right? So now I know that in my head. Okay. Now I want to know how they're doing it. I want to know how are you guys actually getting those estimates out? How are you getting your clients basically? Right. And he says pretty much just Facebook. I'm in the process of setting up my website, right? So we need to know, this is important for us too, to know what they're actually doing. Okay. If they've never run marketing before, that's important information. If they have run Facebook ads before, that's important information, right? Because you can dive into conversation about, did you run them in-house? Like, how did that work for you? All that good stuff. So these are very important and specific questions that we're asking to get the information that we want to progress them into a call, right? So where are they at? How are they getting that, right? And then we want to jump into, what are the goals? Okay, so where do you want to be in an ideal world? I say it just like that sometimes. Like, in an ideal world, what would this look like for you, right? How many jobs per month, monthly revenue, whatever they're measuring their thing on, that you can build that gap. So, right, in the last example, I was talking to Nick, and Nick's like, I do 2 jobs for 30K a month. And I'm like, hey, in an ideal world, what do you want that to look like? He's like, I'd love to get 4 a month or 5 a month. That would be awesome. So then obviously we have the 2 ends of our bridge, right? So we have where they're at and where they want to be, right? That's very, very important, right? To build those 2 ends. Okay. So he gives me 3 to 4 a month. One a week would be really good. So now I know he's very inconsistent. He's maybe doing 1 a month and he wants to get to 3 or 4 consistently, right? Totally doable. Or a lot of our clients are bidding 10 plus a month. Slight flex, but also to get him, oh, okay, cool. That makes sense. So now I have his goals, right? And there's 2 more things here, right? I told you this is not complicated, and it progresses very quickly. After you determine where they are, where they want to be, how they're doing that right now, you want to make sure that your service is something they would consider. And this is not a sales pitch. This is hey, would you actually consider Facebook ads or ads in general? Would you consider running ads to get the 3 or 4 jobs or the 3 or 4 extra jobs a month so you can shore up some of that inconsistencies, right? And they're going to go, yeah, it's pretty much what I'm looking for, right? But you want to confirm that they would consider your service, because if I ask this guy, it's like, would you consider running ads? He's like, no, it makes no sense to go to a sales call, right? And I'm not going to go like, why wouldn't you try to run ads? You know what I mean? Like, so you want to ask these questions to confirm that what you do is something that he would consider, right? If yes, then ensure them that they're a good fit for what you do. Hey, we work with, right? I threw a little, hey, I know you might hate marketing agencies, but this is exactly what we help people with. Would you be down to jump on a call and see if it's possible to put together a plan for you to get those 3 to 4 jobs a month, right? And so, this is exactly what we do, right? And then so match your service to their problem, and then ask them to jump on a call. Like, would you be willing to jump on a call, right? So that we can do that, and frame it as a help to them, right? The DC should be figuring out more about them and how you can help them, right? Rather than pitching service. Okay, so when I'm on a DC with somebody, it's all about them. Like, I want to know everything about them and how we can help best. Okay, so that's how you need to frame this. You want to jump on a call the next few days so that we can get a plan together, or see if we can get a plan together to help you get to whatever your goal is, right? How we can best help you. Pro tip is have a Calendly link already. Like, this is actually the worst thing you could do is, yeah, totally, let's jump on a call. And you go, hey, what time works for you? Right? And then they're like, so I just drop my Calendly link and I just say, hey, can I shoot over my link so you can book in a time that works best for you? Shoot over my link. And then I actually ask them to confirm it. Even though I can see it come through, I ask them to confirm through messaging when they've booked a spot. So have a look and let me know what works best for you, right? And then he said Thursday at 1, okay? So I know he's confirmed in for a meeting, okay? So a couple things here on booking a call. This is the part where you'll probably see the most resistance when you go, hey, let's jump on a call, because they're going to immediately think it's a sales call, right? This guy's going to try to pitch me on something, right? And the resistance is going to go way up, right? So sometimes, and so by lowering that, you could just be cool, like make jokes. Like, you can see the one down here, and this is something I stole from somebody, but it's like, here you go, man. Excuse my fat head because it blows my picture up on Calendly. And I'm just like trying to be funny, right? Some people don't laugh, but whatever. And anyway, if they're resistant to this, you can even say things along the line like, hey man, nothing for sale on this call. Like, leave your wallet at home. Like just want to learn more about you and how we can best help you. So that's kind of my A to Z setting. Like I said, it's not super complex. So final thoughts on this, and then we'll go back through. I can go to anything that you guys want. I'll answer. You guys should have a ton of questions on this, and I want you to. So final thoughts on this is acknowledge everything that somebody says to you. So the worst thing you could do is say something like, "Oh, how are you guys getting those jobs?" in like Facebook, and then the next thing you say is, "How much are they?" or whatever, right? Like, that's just a very plain robotic conversation. Like, actually engage with what they say. So if they're like, "We do more residential," and I'm like, "I like the residential side as well." Like, I don't know why, like, people love commercial, whatever, right? Engage with them and then ask your next question, right? And then follow-ups within the setting process. There is going to come a time, like, this conversation was very smooth. I showed you guys. There was no down, like, this guy just talked to me, right? But there are conversations where I'll get to whatever, step 4, and they'll just stop responding, right? They'll ghost me. And literally all I do is put Tyler with a question mark. That's literally all I do, right? And a lot of times they'll be like, or I'll put like, "You there?" question mark. And they'll be like, "Oh, sorry, man. I was out in the field. I was working." Like, it'll reignite the conversation, right? So follow-ups are really important within the setting process. And then being organized, like understanding if you're doing like pipeline management, be organized on this stuff. So where did I start somebody in an actual conversation? Did I book somebody for a call? Like, have that stuff out, because it's going to help you in your processes. Because the worst thing is like having like 5 appointments and you have zero idea like who you have, right? And then it's going to stress you the heck out. So be really organized, be process oriented in this. And then some bonus tips. Once you book a call with somebody, I send a voice note one day before the call, setting expectation on the call. Okay. Because how many of you have been in DC and the guy just talks for the entire time? That's like the worst DC ever. Right. So you want to set expectations of the call. Like, hey, Nick, super pumped to talk to you tomorrow. Just wanted to touch base and let you know what, a little expectation of the call. It's just going to be a quick 10 to 15 minute chat to learn more about how we can exactly help you. At the end of this call, 3 things are going to happen. One, we're going to determine that this is a great fit. And what I'd like to do then is schedule a longer Zoom call to show you exactly how we can help you. The second one is if we determine it's a good fit and it's just not the right time for you, I can give you some stuff in the meantime so that when it is the right time and we can reconnect, you're ready to roll. right? And the third one is if we determine that we can't help you, we can refer you to somebody that can better help you. But anyway, super pumped to talk to you tomorrow at 8. Boom, voice note, right? That sets expectation. It gets them to confirm the call a lot of times too. And then always, this is something that, this one is huge, and this doesn't seem like a lot, this reminder, but I see people fail at this all the time, right? Send a reminder 30 minutes to an hour before, just saying, hey, Nick, you still good for that call today at 1? Or in 30 minutes. Give them time to actually see the message. Like the worst thing you could do is send a 5-minute like reminder and be like, hey, you ready for that call in 5 minutes? I actually tested this last week. And I'm not kidding. I actually tested this last week kind of for fun. Well, partially because I forgot on a couple of guys, but so I'm going to call it a test. But the people that I messaged like 5-10 minutes before actually skipped out on the call because they forgot. The people that I messaged 30 minutes to an hour before, 100% show rate. So definitely send this message. Really, really important. But really what I wanted to do in this is give you guys some clarity about how you can better guide your messaging and guide your setting. More importantly, setting, shifting from messaging to setting. There's a clear goal in mind. We want to qualify and book. How do we do it? These are the steps that I take. You can learn a lot from that to guide that. And you can see it's not a lot. Like it's 7 steps, which is maybe 10 messages, right? So I hope that helps you guys. I want to take questions on that, on anything on there, because there is a lot there to unpack. So if you guys have any questions on any of this stuff that I just covered, please ask me.
Daniel has a question.
Yeah.
So say you sent a lead magnet to someone and it was the conversation initiator for some reason. Maybe they just add you, then they commented, and then you sent them the lead magnet. What would be your follow-ups generally, or conversation starters for someone that's already, because I've tried something like, I sent that MASTERCLASS to about like 25 people that raised their hand. And I sent a follow-up to them about a few days later. Hey, I hope you're learning a lot with the MASTERCLASS. Just curious, why are you looking to run Facebook ads right now? Obviously 80% of them didn't respond. So I'm thinking about sending follow-ups to that message now. What kind of, this is a little bit of a different conversation than like a cold outreach.
Sure.
Does your messaging change? How does your follow-up process look like for something like that? Or what does your messaging look like for something like that?
Usually when it's like like an engagement where they've reacted or something like to a call to action, I'll usually message them and I'll just be like very casual. Like the thing about engaging with people is that you can speak to them like you know them, right? So sometimes, if you've engaged with them, you sent them, I'll be like, Daniel, what's up, man? I've seen you around. Thought it was time to drop in and say what's up. Hope you enjoyed the lead magnet. Like, what are you? And then start your conversation. What kind of clients are you guys actually working with anyway? That just starts my conversation over, right? Like from the beginning. But it's a better in on a warm kind of lead.
Right.
Something that's been super beneficial for us, Daniel, with AI and all this stuff right now, any canned sort of responses, more people are gonna, kind of feel like they don't want to respond to. So we went like full the other way and made things significantly more personal.
Yeah.
So after a 2-step, we either ask, hey, what's got you reaching out? Smiley face, something like that. Or even just like, by the way, how's your day going?
Yep.
And then you get one response, then go into your normal set. And that has like increased our response rates by a ton. The other thing too that I want to add on is voice notes right now, because of the AI stuff, is so powerful. So powerful. So just from so in our setting process, we changed when we book a call, we'd send a voice note. So basically, instead of typing out like, by the way, like, are you open to hopping on like a 10-15 minute call? We just go to a voice note saying that exact same thing. And that's increased our booking rate. But that also took my show rate from a cold audience at 63% to 91%. And we did this 2 weeks ago. So we literally, like, if you look at like a lot of the people in the space right now, they're all complaining about low show rates, low close rates, and things like that. It's because they're not innovating their process. So I'll just say, like, try to figure out ways to make it as personal as possible and see, how that affects it. Like start to track the numbers on a week to week basis. Because I've never had a 91% show rate before off cold traffic. Like off cold, that's insane. So it's super powerful.
That's awesome. Now, you're just sending voice notes of essentially what you would have typed before, right? You're not changing what you're saying too much.
Everything, yeah. Frameworks are the same, except basically you're just making it. Like even if you look at Tyler's set here, a lot of it's just slightly personalized to the person.
Yeah.
It's like, but the framework of it all. So he knows exactly, okay, step 1 is this. I need to get this info at step 1, at step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And then you're just kind of customizing it all to that person. So the more you customize it and zig and zag a little bit, it feels a little bit more personal of a conversation. Right. So we need to right now, like personalize more than anything. Next thing we're testing right now is a video. So we'll see how that works, but we're going to test a video and just see what happens.
Yep. I've heard that's crazy successful too from people that are doing it. Voice notes and videos.
Yeah.
Because it makes you one more human, because there's so much activity in the space right now that, most agencies already like that don't have background and actually know what they're doing and have been through AP because we're awesome. But like, right. Most agencies are going to send a message and then they're going to be like, nobody responds, I'm done. Right. They're not going to know how to actually set an appointment. Right. So personalizing is huge because it makes you more human. But also like don't fake this, like actually genuinely be interested in their business, like genuinely be interested in the person. Right. I mean, that's going to help you so much by just, being more personal, because 95% of the people in the space don't do that. So that alone is going to do it. And now with bots and crap like that, like voice notes are massively like valuable because you can't fake that. So that's why that personal kind of touch is actually taking over.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. What other questions, guys? Please ask.
Yes. How many times do you follow up with no response until you move on?
Me? I'm pretty dang relentless. So I'll probably do 2 texts, like you there, and then another text, and then I'll probably drop a GIF in or a meme or something, and then I'll probably drop a voice note, so like 4 maybe, and then I'll throw them in long-term nurture.
Yeah. And your content will nurture them too.
Yep.
Like that's
you don't have to force it. That was like the one thing too that I shifted from, like objection handling in the sense of like getting challenging questions rather than clarifying questions, and then being like, hey, sometimes it's not the right time. Like I get that. So let your content just nurture them, and then 10 weeks down the road when you post a result of your contractor that just made 100K and they're like, crap, I could have made 100K in the last 10 weeks. Like that's an easy sell.
Actually more beneficial. They see your other clients winning and you're posting and you're consistent.
Yep.
Yeah.
They want to win. People want to win. So
people want to win. Jack, just to clarify, when you're messaging, you're going for a longer approach before offering the call rather than sending 2 or 3 qualifying message and trying to book quick.
It's more personal. So I'm only really, if you look at this, I'm really only sending like 5 or 6 qualifying questions. Like it's not a lot, right? But it's not me asking those questions in succession. It's me taking an extra 2 minutes to actually be personal with them and actually carry on a conversation before asking those qualifying questions, so that it doesn't feel like a pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Straight to the point is I've tested it. Like sometimes it works, but this works way better.
You're probably going to get a higher volume of calls straight to the point, but not necessarily like
qualified
calls. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is like, would you rather have 10 calls that are unqualified and now on the DC, you're like trying to qualify them and maybe you just wasted 20 minutes of your life? Or would you rather have like 6 calls that are highly qualified because you took an extra 5 minutes to be personal and now those DCs are really good and you're going to be able to move them into a sales call? Right. I'd rather have that one.
Just to quickly add into the setting process as well. So in one of the steps, I think you, especially for you, Tyler, you said something like, our clients are getting 10 plus qualified calls.
I think they're bidding. So I say they're bidding 10 plus jobs a month.
Yeah. So one thing that I'm thinking to test that we're doing for the AP side right now is we're doing a video where it's like, hey, this is what kind of results our client, like you literally just take your phone and you're like selfie style, like, hey, I just wanted to share some client results with you. Like this is what our clients are getting. And then you just pan to the screen, show like, a client win or something like that. That makes it personalized. You only have to film it once and you can send that over and over again. So the thought for anyone who wants to test that as well, if you have some, client results is great.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's a really good strategy. What else on here? There's a lot of questions in there, huh?
Yeah, a lot. We got plenty of questions. Haley, tips for organizing the messaging and calls. Do you keep everything in the same tracker you use for the initial messages?
Labels are my game changer for that. GHL is a game changer for that. If you actually know how to run your pipeline, like match your labels to your pipeline, and it becomes very easy because I know. So basically on mine, it's like first message sent, actual conversation started, offer made to jump on a discovery call, basically, discovery call booked, strategy call booked, signed client, or long-term nurture, basically. Right. So staying organized like that labels are a game changer for me. Like even when I stopped running the automations because I have a VA now and I actually want them to work, I still kept the labels.
Are those labels, is that integrated to GHL or were you manually changing?
So the labels on Facebook are, that's
through
like
the
extension. I manually do it on GHL, but it's easy to build the pipeline out.
Right.
Yeah. GHL is like,
you have your stages, right? Like, so you know exactly what stage they're in.
Yep. And now thinking about building a team with like CSMs and stuff down the road, like you can automate a lot of that stuff too. So like when a call's booked, like it'll just send them a notification that a call's booked too.
Yeah.
Unlocking GHL is my goal.
Does that make sense, Haley? Also, whose mic is
any other question? If we don't have any client results yet because we're new, what's the best alternative to show them, Nick, when you're talking about the video?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would just you can show them the process. You can briefly just explain the process, do a resurgence campaign, get some client results, do whatever you have to just show, get some sort of testimonial if you're just starting out, and then just share those. And then as you get more clients through that, you'll update. Like a lot of this stuff isn't going to happen overnight. Like a lot of it's just going to be like a built up thing that you slowly implement to your process. So we haven't done that for years, right? And the setting process works. These are just like 1% tweaks as you start to build out your agency that you can implement.
Well, it's funny too because things recycle, right? So like trends happen, people start following trends, and then like what's the best way to break a trend sometimes is just to go back to what you did like a year ago.
Totally.
Like that's easy. Once you have it all built out, it's like, and when you become really good at like reading trends like in the market and like seeing what people are doing, and then you're just like the AI push, right? Like that was a huge push. Like maybe there's a curveball you throw in there that's just different. I don't know, right? So when you start to see trends and you can do something that's different, you tend to get more attention a lot.
Agreed.
Who asked me to share? Richard asked me to share my pipeline real quick. So that's mine.
Thank you.
You don't need to worry about the stuff down here, but it's basically these 5 here, or this line here.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. No worries. Rochelle has a question with the pipeline. Oh, Rochelle, go ahead and ask a question, and then I'll get to Michael's question.
Okay, thank you. My question was about the voice note that you send before the discovery call. So you said in it, you basically say like, oh, we're going to have a call to qualify if you like meet the need or whatever. And then you say, if you do, we'll do a long Zoom call afterwards. So you're already setting them up for that.
Yep. So if it makes sense, basically if it makes sense and we've determined that it's a great fit for both of us, what I'd like to do is set up a longer Zoom type of call so that I can actually show you how we can help you. Right.
Okay. And then do you ever do like straight to a sales call on the phone? Do you ever skip the discovery call? Because if you as a third question, if you ask all these qualifying questions in the chat, when you do the discovery call, what else are you talking about? I mean, maybe obviously you're listening about their business and things, but do you ever go straight to sales?
I try not to because I can get more information on the DC that'll help in a strategy call, but sometimes it does transition into it. I would say if you're not doing a lot of calls right now and you haven't done a lot of sales calls, like really try to follow the process best and do it that way because it's going to give you time to prepare, right? But if you've been doing it a long time, like sometimes if it transitions into a sales call, it transitions into a sales call for me. But obviously I go off rip without like a sales deck a lot of times. So, but yeah, I mean, I try to stick to the process as much as I can. Like I don't ever jump into a call and control it to where I'm like, hey, does that sound good? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's jump in and talk about now more. Like I don't do that. I try to set them up. If they organically do it, then sometimes I'll do it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep. Jay, I know you had a question.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, thanks guys for doing this mastermind. Also really appreciate it. But yeah, going to my question is, so I heard you guys talking about doing like videos and things like that. So it's like the thing that popped in my head was like Loom videos, right? Like creating Loom videos and like creating so much value and stuff like that. What's your take on that for like outreach? Like, should I do like a 5-minute Loom video for like a picture of me and be like, hey, what's up guys? This is me, Jay, and this is what I can offer you guys, and like kind of show the systems?
Like within your messaging?
Yeah, like within my messaging. Do you think that's kind of a good thing to try out?
Yeah, I've tried that. Doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
It's like just on your phone, like film
Just
it
a quick video, like
flip it around on the screen.
Oh shit, okay.
I'm talking like a 10-second, 15-second
quick.
video.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
People don't watch 5-minute videos when they don't know who you are.
Exactly.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Someone asked what a pipeline is. It's just like it's an organization. It's basically all your contacts in stages, I guess. I don't know if you have a better answer for that, Nick, but
Yeah, I mean, you want to think about it like, at the beginning when you're first messaging, you want to get as many conversations out as possible. And then it's going to get to a point where you have like hundreds of conversations. You need a way to basically figure out, okay, which step are they at in the process? So some people, they might end up ghosting you. So you could probably put them in like a follow-up within your pipeline, right? So it just kind of keeps things at a good spot. And then you can get very crazy with it all and go deep with some of that stuff. But essentially it just like keeps it very organized in terms of where they're at in the sales process.
I got a question.
yeah.
Does it take quite a bit of time going back and forth between Messenger and Go High Level to like keep your pipeline updated?
I just do it like the end of the day. So like as far as like dragging them into the right pipelines.
Yeah.
So I'll just do it at the end of the day. So if I like book 5 discovery calls that day, I'll just drag those 5 in at the end of the day, basically.
Okay.
It can be a little tedious. The tedious one is first message to actual conversation started. So that's the one that takes the most time because that could be quite high sometimes.
Right. Okay.
But super important, I think, because if you understand where people are at in your pipeline, it makes it way easier to do follow-ups and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Any other questions?
I got one for you,
Yeah.
Tyler.
Yeah.
So in your messaging, are you using sort of the same speed to lead type stuff that we try and help clients with? So as soon as you get a message or a response from somebody, you're continuing that conversation immediately, kind of thing?
I try my best, but as we know, that is really hard to do sometimes. But I do try my best. So sometimes that's me coming in after, like, I don't know, 10 a.m. and I have 5 messages already, right? So just continuing it from that point and trying your best to do that. Most people are responsive, especially if they're warm. Like warm people are very, very responsive, even if it's later. But cold ones that are like responding to my first message, just send the message when you can get to it, I guess. But I try my best to be very on it. But as we know, like if we're fulfilling and doing all this stuff, sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do. So just having a process of even like, hey, from 1 to 2, I'm going to answer messages or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the best answer I can give you.
Sure. No, makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah. I wish I was a superhero, but I'm not. Jack asked, you're using labels on Messenger to keep prospects organized. What does DHL do differently for you? Not much in the terms of that. It's just way easier to see them all when I do it that way. Like then I could just look down the actual convo started instead of like going through and trying to find each label or like filtering by label. It's easier for me, but not much different, to be honest, in terms of what it actually does.
The nice thing about keeping it in GHL too is when you're ready to run a resurgence campaign to your own prospects, that's super powerful, like an SMS outreach.
Totally. And I collect emails too when I book calls. So people that don't end up signing with me, they'll get an email eventually.
Solid questions. Really good questions.
Yeah, these are really good. I think we got like 20 minutes left of the segment.
Yep.
So we can go into a little DC stuff, I guess. I'll probably send you guys. I'll probably drop a link in here about like a DC that I ran the other day that you guys can listen to. It's like 25 minutes, so I didn't want to. It's a little longer than I actually like doing DCs, but this guy was kind of chatty, so I don't want to go over time here, but I can kind of tell you about the process of what it looks like. Because I know Rochelle asked a question about if you're already qualifying them in messaging, like what do you actually do in the DC, right? So for me, the DC, and I'm not going to share anything here, but the DC is more about further qualifying, but further reinforcing that they need you, basically, right? So the first thing I'm going to do in a DC is when I talk to somebody, and this is actually super underrated, is how many of you guys gone to a call and like you have no idea how to start the call? Like you don't know what to say to them, right? And you end up just going like, oh, you're in Michigan. Like, did you guys get snow yesterday? Like I've done that a million times and it's stupid. Like I feel so dumb after I do it. But
how about the Lakers?
What'd you say?
Just how about the Lakers? Like just some Steve. That was a dumb joke. Just
So find something and this is an easy 2-minute thing you can do. Find something on their social media that you can relate to. Like the last guy, the call that I'll send you guys, he's a math teacher, and I found that. I don't know how I found that, but I found it on his social media, and I was like, dude, I'm looking through your social media, and I saw that you're a math teacher, and then he's like, yeah, I teach math. I was like, I coach high school basketball. Like we both deal with dumb kids, right? So it's an easy way to start the conversation. It's a good icebreaker into it. They start laughing a little bit. It makes everything way easier. So try to do that. That's like 30 seconds that it takes to start a call. But what I find really effective in DCs is ask them why they jumped on the call with you. Like ask them what they're looking to get. Basically, like just so like what made you decide to jump on the call today? And they're going to be like, oh, I just want to get more information on blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they'll like talk for 5 minutes and just spill out like their whole life story. But that's really good information because it gets you really personal. Like I swear, I've had a 40-minute DC where this guy just didn't stop talking. But and so ask them about, why are you here? Basically, like, why did you decide to jump on the call? Like, basically, what are you looking to get out of it? And then ask them what they know about marketing. Like, ask them I want to know what they know about what we do. And sometimes it's like, well, I don't know anything about it. And sometimes it's like, well, I know we've dealt with other marketing too. That's information I need in my head already, right? And then you basically go, hey, that's awesome. Like, mind if I tell you a little bit about what we do? And this is not a pitch of I'm going to break my service down for 25 minutes in my offer. This is literally a 1-2 minute thing. And it's basically like, hey, we're a marketing consultancy who works specifically with hardscape outdoor living contractors to, one, generate them more quality leads, which usually results in an extra $20,000 to $30,000 a month, because we know we can help them increase their conversion rates. We can help them increase their sales, their closing rates, because we do this, right? I just worked with a guy in Minnesota who was doing exactly what you're doing, trying to get a few more jobs a month. This is what we did in his business and it helped him. And then I go, is that kind of what you expected? And they'll be like, yeah, or they'll be like, no. And then basically that's the beginning of the call. That's like a pre-frame for the call. And then you actually get into the call. You can set your expectation again of what the call is. Like, again, hey, this call is just to get a better understanding of how we can actually help you best. I'm just going to ask a couple questions, so that's okay. And then I'll open it up for questions for you if you need to. If it seems like it's a fit, we'll move to a longer, what I'd like to do, again, same thing as a voice note, move to a longer kind of strategy Zoom call so that I can show you exactly how. And they'll be like, and I go, cool, if we dive in? They're like, yeah, right? And then you want to know again, you want to qualify them again on this call. So you qualified them in Messenger, you want to qualify them again, okay? This is reinforcing who they are, okay? So who are you basically? What do you do? Who do you do it for, right? And how many clients are you doing it for is kind of what I asked. Just tell me a little bit more about your business. What do you guys actually do? Tell me all the things and basically who do you do it for and how many are you doing right now, right? They're going to give you this long spiel about that. Again, you want to ask where they're at goals wise, or where they're at revenue wise, or where they're at jobs wise. Same thing you're asking in your messaging. It's really powerful to ask it twice because you're just requalifying them. But now it's a face to face. It's on the phone. It's more personable, right? It's a different kind of conversation than over messaging. Okay. You could dive into longer term goals. Like, hey, so I know we talked about where you want to be in a few short months, but what about like a year? Where do you actually want to be in a year? Like, give me a big picture goal, right? And they're going to give you, oh, I want to do all this stuff, right? I want to buy my equipment and I want to hire a crew. And it's like, this is really good information to have because now you can build that gap way, way bigger. And then you want to ask, honestly, I ask why. So if somebody goes, I want to get to like 100K by the end of the year. And I go, why do you want to hit 100K? And they'll be like, well, I want to be able to hire another crew, or I want to pay off equipment, or I want to step out of the day to day and stop wearing so many hats. And like, that's important information for a strategy call. And then I ask, do you want some help with this? And they're going to say, yeah, like 99% of the time, they're going to say, yeah. And then I go, do you want that now, or do you want it kind of the help later? Is it something you're looking for down the road? Right. They're going to answer that question. Usually they're going to be like, well, yeah, now sounds good. Right. And then you're going to go, basically, if it's a good fit, you felt like it was a good fit, you're going to go, hey, I think it's a pretty good fit. You might explaining a little bit more about what we do, and you can pitch your service a little more in depth, not so vague of what I said before, a little more in depth of what it is. You could share your screen and show results real quick, or on the phone, you could just talk about other clients, right? That you've got the same results for, as this client. And then at the end, you're going to say, does this sound like something that's really helpful for you or would help you? And then they're going to say, yeah, I think so. And then you go, hey, would you actually like to set up a longer call so that we can strategize a little bit and get a plan and show you exactly how we can help you? Right. And that's your DC, really. You can add other things onto there. I do budget now. I would not probably recommend that as a starter. But my offer is very dialed in now. So I qualify budget on the DC, but you don't have to do that right away. So that's probably where I'd end a lot of that, and then get on a call. Like, if they're like, yeah, that sounds great, book them. Little pro tip, book them on the call right there. So I've actually unintentionally tested this as well. Anytime that I send the Calendly link after we jump off the call, I get like a 50% less show rate or booking rate, rather than, hey, that's awesome. What does next Tuesday look like for you? And then I'll be like, I can do like after 4. And then you're like, cool, I'll book you in for 4. Right. And then they're booked in. Right. So that's kind of my full DC. And then you want to do things like video. This is where I do the video. Like a couple of days before the actual strategy call, I do a video, like Nick was talking about earlier. So that's kind of the run through of what I do on a DC. Like, it should be like 15 minutes about, but I don't know if that answers like Rochelle's question about what do I actually do on a DC. I'm just further qualifying them and reinforcing their belief that they need what we do, over a different avenue than messaging. So any questions on that?
So just to add on to DCs as well, once you get to a point too where you're taking like quite a few DCs and you have an abundance of messages and things like that, DCs are really for you to also qualify them like to be your ideal client. So yeah. It's also a way for you to like just make sure you're not wasting 60 minutes with someone. It's totally okay to be like, yeah, I don't think, right now you're at a place where it makes sense to invest in marketing. Like, get a few more jobs. Here's some like, free stuff for you to take a look at in the meantime. And then let's follow up in like a month from now.
Yep. I'll drop, Cecilia, I'll drop the link for one of the DCs I just did in here in a second. But as to Nick's point too, like qualifying somebody over the phone is way different than qualifying over a message, because tonality, I can hear personality. Like, if I'm talking to somebody on a DC and they're just a dud and like they're very like harsh or like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not somebody I want to work with. So I'll just disqualify them based on that half the time. Right. So like that's a good way to do that too, because I can't usually see that in messaging. right? But when I get on a call with somebody, especially if I get on a Zoom, I give people the option if they want to Zoom or phone call on DCs. If they Zoom, I can really tell who they are. But even phone calls, like there's a guy the other day who's a perfect ideal client for me, and his like personality was just, he was resistant to some things, like he was kind of harsh, and then I just disqualified him. So
Do you ask if they're comfortable with running offers and stuff like that? Because I know I've talked to some contractors that they say, oh, I don't want to run promotional deals and things like that. And I've started to ask that in my DCs, like as a qualifying question, like, are you comfortable with doing promos to get your foot in the door? Is that something that you really care about, or is that not really, or you force your clients to do it?
Yeah, I do force my clients to do it, but I mean, you could ask that as a qualifying question. I would ask it as a consideration, not a do you want to question. So I'd be like, would you consider, like, this works really well. We just ran this for XY, like contractor A up in Minnesota. Like, would you guys consider doing something like that? Right? These work really well. Ask them like that, because then you're not going to get like a no answer. Like if you do, it's like, okay, well, I'm probably not going to work with you. But if they're like, I would consider it, at least they'll talk about it. Right.
Right.
I do that in my budget one. I don't say, hey, it's 9,000 over 3 months. Do you have that money? And they're like, yes or no. I go, hey, was this something you can consider? Or would consider based on the value you're going to get, basically. And they're like, I'd consider it, or yeah, we could talk about it. And then obviously you can do some pricing, payment plan stuff on the sales call. But yeah, if I was like, it's 9,000 over 3 months, like we have a couple of different payment options. Is this something you would consider? And they're like, no, it's way too much. And I'm like, cool, here's my group. And I'll let my content nurture you. So, but that's probably along the same lines. Like, is that an extreme qualifier for you? Is that something that if they said, I'd have to think about it, is that like, no, we're not going to move forward to a sales call?
No, I mean, I have a client right now that we're gonna test out something like we're focusing just on the quality of their content, and maybe their warranty, which is through their supplier, rather than like a discount or something like that. Trying to do like a value bundle. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, I have another client too where we're doing, it's like if they do roofing, then they can get siding for 15% off. And that's like it's a $200 trial for the month, but we're already at like 7 or 8 leads off of like 500 ad spend, so it's not bad. So I mean, I guess it's not really that big of a deal, but
yeah, I mean, I ran an ad for a guy, and he was the same way. I don't want to run offers, and I was like, cool, we won't run an offer. And I was like, it's your ad spend, buddy. But so I was like, we should really run an offer. And he's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I was like, cool, whatever, right? Let's run the ad how you want to do it. Like, it got maybe like 1 lead in there. And then I was like, a month later, he was on a 3-month contract. Month in, he's like, said something to me, and I was like, you ready to run that offer? And he's like, let's see what it does. And we ran the offer, and he got like 7 leads in like the first 2.5 weeks. And he's like, okay. So sometimes I just let contractors like play themselves into it. But yeah, you just education, like showing results. If you have something like that, like, hey, this is where we didn't run an offer for this guy, and we switched it to an offer, and look what happened. Like, sometimes you just gotta. A lot of times it's education, right? It's education. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in marketing is when I hear contractors say, "No, that guy's a tire kicker," and that is like one of my biggest pet peeves, because they're not. Right? They're interested parties that need more information and education. We have to think the same way about our clients sometimes, right? They don't know anything about what we do most of the time. That's why I ask them what they know about marketing, right? And half the time we just have to educate on what it actually is and what we're doing for them, because that's most of the time they're going to be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, right? So education, like Richard said, like education is it's game. It's a game changer when you can actually educate somebody.
Right. Okay. That's perfect.
Yeah. Richard.
Yeah, just really quick. So I'm in a niche in dentistry where like they have other decision makers or like bringing in office managers. So at a DC call, what I try focusing on as well is, hey, is there anyone else that you want to bounce this off to like run this idea through, right? Because I know you're busy all the time behind the chair, but is there anyone else that's going to be involved on this, like a patient advocate and office manager that should be on the next call?
Yeah.
Just because I've seen so many times, if it's just one person on there, most likely it doesn't close because it will close, but then they'll get someone else looped in. That person will then ask the same question, so then I'll have to do another sales call. So I try making sure if it's not a solo person, I try to make sure everyone's looped in on that next call.
Yep, really good point. I do that at the beginning of my strategy call. Like the first thing I say
Cool.
is like, hey, is there anybody else? Or basically, are you the sole owner? Do you have a partner? Is there anybody else that you want on this call? If they're like, yeah, and they're just not available right now, I'll just be like, cool, let's reschedule the call. But you could do it on your discovery and like kill that objection right away. Really smart. Any other questions?
Which book should I read or video to watch to educate myself on marketing?
There's probably a billion that you could. Yeah. I would honestly say, and this is Nick can answer this differently, but like I read more stuff on like leadership and business and stuff like that than I do on marketing, right? Because marketing is just, what is marketing? Marketing is getting eyes to your product, right? Like that's not a hard thing to understand. Like, yeah, you could read stuff from like Alex Hormozi, like offer stacking and stuff like that is really important and strategies on that sense, but like leadership is really important. Like how to actually talk to people is really important because that's the main part of what we do. Like marketing up until like the strategy call, like none of that is actually, you don't have to know much about marketing, right? You got to know about talking to people and you know, how to qualify people. So I would say start on that, but yeah, I don't know. Nick, who do you like? I'm an Alex Hormozi guy because he's a free.
Yeah. I mean, I like business books more than marketing books because from a marketing standpoint, like the best way for you to learn marketing is to go like run a campaign. Yeah. And you'll know exactly what you need to do to make a campaign work. And the frameworks of it all are the same. And then you'll start to see patterns of like marketing as a whole, right? So like you'll start to notice in your own buying patterns. Like, I don't know if you guys do this now, but when I'm like intrigued to go into a store, when I'm at the mall, I'm like, what the hell? Like, how did I end up here? Or like, why am I so bought into the Apple ecosystem? You know, what did they do to get me in and how have they retained me as such like a long, you know, customer? I think if you're thinking like that, you just learn a lot more about marketing than like reading a book on marketing. There's certain like strategy books and things like that that'll give you a good base. But like if you want to like actually think about it, stuff like that, that's just a good way to look at it. The other thing too is you can look at like old marketing versus like new marketing, I guess. So if like you look at like old newspaper headlines or, you know, stuff like magazines, you know, yellow pages, stuff like that and see, you know, the kind of ads they're running, you'll just pretty much see like the frameworks of marketing are literally all the same, except instead of like on a billboard or on a newspaper, it's like on a Facebook ad now. Yeah. So it's like human psychology hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is the medium of the marketing.
Yeah, psychology is big. Actually, something I do now, this is kind of funny, but anytime a salesman comes to my door, I just listen to their pitch. Like, I'm not going to buy from them, but I listen to them like nonstop. And I'm just, what is this guy actually going to do? I had a really good, so the guy from Weed Man, like this is not Weed Man. It's like the guy pulling my weeds, right? He came to that door the other day, scheduled a call with me, right? They called me back for like an actual sales call. And this guy was actually pretty good. Like he was probably how I would sell somebody. And it was funny at the end. He's like, yeah, I'm not interested, but I was like, you did a really good job. So like, I would just listen to them and see how they talk. And that's a good way to learn too. But yeah, Richard.
I could totally see you guys consulting them afterwards. Hey, you guys did really good, but you need to do X, Y, and Z. And they're like, what? Who are you?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't give them advice, but I was like, hey, you did really good. Like that was actually pretty solid. Like if I wasn't in this business, I'd probably buy from you.
Yeah. One other thing is just on the DC call that I've noticed is that if you talk to someone that's like Richard or an a-hole or someone else, don't think the whole industry is like that. And what I start doing after like 20, 30 calls is calling them out. Hey, just to let you know, I talked to several insert industry names here, and I don't hear a lot of people like you on there. Most people are kind of like this. You know what I mean? And so like when they're dicks or anything else, I'm like, because I see a lot of people get discouraged. Oh man, someone was complete a-hole. That must be the whole industry, and it's not. You're going to find the people you want to work with, and you can disqualify those people faster. So water off the back, keep moving.
Yep, that's what I was talking about in my DCs. If they're just like, nope, I'm not dealing with you. Your 2000 is not worth my time, honestly.